Sometimes life throws you a curveball that turns your whole world upside down. And looking back, it's like one of those wild stories you hear around a campfire, except this one happened to me, right here in the misty hills of Whispering Pines. I'm Mike Harlan, just your average 35-year-old mechanic from down in the valley, who finally scraped together enough after 10 long years of overtime and side gigs to buy this cozy little rustic lodge up on the ridge, a place I dreamed would be a real home base for my daughter Emily, who's 11 and splits time between me and her mom. We'd plant a wildflower patch together. You see, something simple and beautiful to remind her she's always got roots here, no matter what. But man, I had no idea the neighborhood was ruled by this iron-fisted HOA queen named Evelyn Hargrove. Folks called her the enforcer behind her back, and for good reason. It all kicked off that first crisp autumn morning after we moved and Emily and I were out there laughing, scattering seeds in the dirt, when this shiny black SUV pulls up like it's on a mission, and out steps Evelyn, all prim and proper in her pearl necklace and clipboard, eyeing my place like I'd just built a junkyard. She marches over, introduces herself as HOA president, and starts rattling off violations. 14 of them, can you believe it? Fence too rustic looking, bird feeder in the wrong spot. Even the color of my mailbox clashing with the community aesthetic, fines adding up to over $3,000, due in 2 days flat. I tried explaining I was new, hadn't even seen the rulebook, but she just waved it off with this smug grin, saying ignorance is no excuse. And as she backed out, her tire crunched right over the edge of our fresh-planted patch, scattering soil everywhere. I stood there, heart sinking, watching her drive off, thinking, what kind of welcome is this? That night, I couldn't shake it. Emily was bummed about the flowers, asking why someone would be so mean, and it hit me deep, I'd fought tooth and nail for this spot, not just for the view of the pines whispering in the wind, but to give her stability after the divorce left us both reeling. So I dug into the paperwork, old deeds from when the lodge was built back in the 90s, and there it was, a faded map showing my property line just outside the original HOA boundaries, like it was grandfathered in or something. But then I pulled up the current online version from 2020, and bam, the lines had shifted, swallowing my lot whole. No explanation, no vote records, nothing. Evelyn had taken over as president right around then, after moving up from Boulder, where she'd lost her own house in some nasty neighborhood spat. Or so the rumors went. It smelled fishy, like power gone to someone's head, but I needed proof before stirring the pot. Next day, I headed over to my neighbor Hank Dawson's place. Evelyn had warned me off him during her little inspection, calling him a troublemaker, which only made me more curious. Hank's this grizzled, old-timer, retired logger with a heart of gold, living in a cabin that's seen better days. I offered to fix his sagging porch railing. Mechanic hands are good for more than engines, and over coffee, he spilled the beans. Turns out Evelyn showed up in 2019, fresh from her Boulder mess, where she'd been ousted from her own HOA for pushing too hard. She was a wreck at first, he'd said, all bitter and alone. But then she wormed her way into power here, expanding the HOA boundaries overnight to protect property values, or so she claimed. But Hank had the goods. Grainy security cam footage from his backyard, dated 2020, showing Evelyn and a couple of shady guys in the dead of night, literally dragging boundary stakes across the hill under flashlight beams, laughing like it was some prank. She's not just enforcing rules, Mike, Hank whispered, his eyes narrowing. She's building an empire on lies in your lodge. It's got that natural hot spring out back, worth a fortune to developers. Word got around quick after that. I shared the maps with a few folks, quietly, but Evelyn must have caught wind because she rolled up again, this time with her sister Victoria, a slick lawyer type in a pantsuit, both of them storming my porch like avenging angels. You've been spreading defamation, Mr. Harlan, Evelyn snarled, her voice dripping with that fake politeness, jabbing a finger at me. We'll sue you into the ground if you don't pay up and shut your mouth. I fired back, calm as I could. Defamation? How about fraud, Evelyn? Those boundaries didn't move themselves. Victoria jumped in, all mousy and menacing. You have no proof, and even if you did, our contracts are ironclad. You'll lose everything, including time with that little girl of yours. It stung, hearing Emily dragged into it, my blood boiling as they turned to leave. But then get this, my other neighbor Sarah Klein, This young mom, with a phone always in hand, had been filming the whole showdown from her window. She posted it on TikTok that afternoon, captioning it, "HOA Tyrant Exposed." And holy cow, it blew up thousands of views in hours, comments flooding in like, "Get her," and "Fight back, dude." Evelyn didn't take it lying down. Oh no, she escalated like a villain in a bad movie, hiring a bulldozer crew the very next week to enforce standards by ripping up Emily's wildflower patch entirely, blades churning the earth while she stood there smirking, arms crossed. "This eyesore's gotta go," she yelled over the roar. "For the good of the community." But Sarah was on it again. Live streaming the destruction Save Mike's Garden trended locally, racking up shares and outrage, folks calling it straight-up vandalism. I felt gutted watching from the porch, memories of Emily's giggles buried under mud. But it lit a fire in me too. This wasn't just about rules anymore. It was personal, her way of punishing me for digging, rooted in her own scars from Boulder, where she'd been humiliated, now lashing out to feel and control, maybe even profiting off it somehow. I couldn't let it slide, so I anonymously tipped off Summit News Channel 5 with the maps, the footage, everything. "Check the HOA president," I wrote. "She's stealing land." Things hit fever pitch that foggy dawn. A couple weeks later, sirens wailing at 3 a.m., cop cars surrounding my lodge, lights flashing like a scene from a thriller. I stumbled out in my robe, heart pounding, thinking they were coming for me. But no, Evelyn screeches up in her SUV, charging toward me like a bull, screaming, "You'll regret this, you meddling nobody," only for the officers to grab her, cuffs clicking as they read her rights: fraud, property destruction, harassment, illegal boundary tampering. Turns out the news tip sparked an investigation. They'd uncovered her collecting over $250,000 in bogus fines from folks like me, pocketing chunks for herself, all to fund her empire after her Boulder fallout left her broke and vengeful. She broke down right there on the gravel, tears streaming, muttering, "I was just protecting us from what happened to me." But the cops weren't buying it, especially when records showed she'd targeted properties like mine for their hidden gems, that hot spring ripe for a luxury resort tie-in. As the dust settled, more came pouring out. An anonymous envelope slid under my door, stuffed with leaked emails between Evelyn and Ridgeview Estates Corp., this big developer outfit. They'd been colluding for years, her expanding the HOA to force sales on non-compliant lots, netting her kickbacks over $500,000 across 5 years, with schemes in a dozen mountain towns, all mimicking the tactics that burned her in Boulder. Irony, right? The feds got involved, probing it as a statewide land grab, and Evelyn? She ended up in therapy during pre-trial, even sending a deputy with a half-hearted apology. I let my pain twist me. It read, but greed took over. Me? I became a key witness, testifying how it nearly broke my family. But in the end, it healed us too. The HOA got dissolved, refunds totaling nearly $300,000 dished out to 50-odd families, and we formed a loose neighborhood co-op instead, just folks looking out for each other without the drama. Emily and I replanted that wildflower patch with seeds donated from every neighbor. Hank brought heirloom daisies, Sarah added poppies, and watching her skip through the blooms on her next visit, it felt like we'd won more than a fight. We'd reclaimed our peace. Evelyn's facing real time now, and while part of me pities her, twisted by her own ghosts, the bigger picture's what gets me. This wasn't isolated, you know? Similar scams popping up nationwide, communities rising up, laws tightening on these power plays. But here's the thing that still nags at me, and I'd love to hear what you think. Was she a monster, or just a product of a broken system that chews people up and spits them out meaner? Did justice really prevail? Or is there a deeper conspiracy with these developers pulling strings everywhere? Drop a comment below, share your own HOA horror stories, or debate if folks like her deserve a second chance. Hit that like button if this resonated. Subscribe for more real-life tales, and let's keep the conversation going. Who knows? Your story might be next.